Welcome to part 2 of the second module of iOS social media forensics. This time we will be talking about Instagram. Let's have a look at what we are going to learn. So again, the same way as with WhatsApp, I am not assuming everyone is familiar with Instagram. I know that it's quite popular in some parts of the world, but not so much in the others. And also it is quite prevalent among young people. So I think the majority of their users are under 29. I can't remember where I read it, but I think that's the case. So let's just go through some introduction at the very beginning, see what Instagram does, what you can do on Instagram, and what kind of artifacts we can find. So we are going to be using these three main files for forensic efforts today, and that is the com.bourbon.instagram.plist. So that's a property list with some forensic artifacts in it. We will use the time and up database. I have input a placeholder here, so the ID thing will be different for you than it will be for me. I'll give you the number later, because obviously you can also work on my data that I'm providing, but in case you are following along with your own data, this is going to be different. And there's also a the ID database, which is just the Instagram ID is the name of that database. We will have a brief look through it. We will talk about it briefly, but not in detail, and you'll see why in the future. All right. So a little bit about Instagram. Instagram has 1 billion active monthly users. That's a lot of people, as you can imagine. Supposedly that was hit in 2018, but it's also believed to be accurate as of September 2020. These statistics are provided by statista.com. So it's a mainly photo and video sharing platform. So there's a number of different features that you can use. There's also a chat, there's video calling, and really all the kind of modern features you would expect. But the very kind of heart of it, and from the beginning, it was a photo and at the beginning not even a video sharing platform. And another interesting thing is that it was bought by Facebook in 2012, so now it belongs to Facebook as well. Let's take a look at the UI. So here I've put a couple of screenshots, so we can talk about what kind of features Instagram has. So the first picture, the first screenshot on the left, this is the feed view. So if you log in or open the app, this is the first thing that you would see. This is just a feed of posts of the accounts you follow. So if you would scroll down here, you would see more posts by accounts that you followed in the past. And these circles right here are stories. So these are images or videos which will only be accessible for 24 hours. This is a feature that was added, kind of influenced by Snapchat, and kind of took over a little bit, I think, because a lot of people moved on from Snapchat to Instagram when that feature was introduced. This other screenshot is the profile page. So this is my my kind of fake profile that I have made, Alice Bobson 1337. And I have redacted the profile picture because it is part of the homework for you to find it and tell me what is in that picture. just a disclaimer, that picture has since been changed. So if you have Instagram and you want to find this user and check what their profile picture is to cheat on the homework, that's not gonna work. Obviously, I don't think that you would do that, although that would be smart, but no, that's not gonna work. So this is the profile picture. You can see the number of posts, followers, and how many people you are following. There's a little bio section over here where you can write whatever. You can also add hashtags if you want. And here there are story highlights. So as I said, stories are the disappearing pictures and videos. If you are the author of them, you can highlight your own stories and then they will be available for longer on your profile. And the last picture screenshot on the right is the activity or the notification view. So this is where you would see if someone likes your pictures, if someone wants to follow you. I have a lot of follow requests because this is a new account, so obviously a lot of random accounts are trying to follow me. And one more thing to mention, if we go back to the first view, here you can see this little arrow icon. These are the DMs. So this is where you would send one-to-one or group chats. That's very similar to any other messenger like WhatsApp or Facebook. You can send pictures. You can talk privately to people with whom you are connected, or not really. I don't think it doesn't work like Facebook, that you need to be connected as friends to be able to speak to each other. So that's where the DMs, so direct messages, live. Next, we are going to identify file of interest. So this is the same process that we have done with WhatsApp. We will basically be looking in the manifest.db file. And first of all, we are looking for DB and SQLite files. These are databases. So remember, in the last lecture, I explained why SQLite and DB files are the same, but just a quick refresher. It's because the extension does not matter in this case. It's all about the magic number at the beginning of the file, so it doesn't matter at all what the extension is, but this is just a convention that people are using. So that's why we are looking for the .SQLite and .db files. So we can see that there are no .SQLite files. That's fine. And then we can see a couple of .db files, including the time in app that we are going to be focusing on. And also here, because I did not find many databases, I also had a look at the plist files, and this is you can see a long list of different property lists. Not everything will be useful, but obviously when you're doing your own investigation, you probably want to look into everything just to gain experience and learn and see for yourself. So you're welcome to do that. And here we can also see the file that we'll be focusing on, which is the com.bourbon.instagram.plist. So this is the list of our files of interest. So let me just speak a bit about the last database on the list, because I mentioned it briefly, but I just want to explain a little bit more. So this database is known to hold a lot of artifacts on Android or Windows applications, but I was not able to replicate the same amount of forensic artifacts on iOS. You're welcome to try on your own, of course. So that's why I'm listing it here, just so that you know that it has the potential, but it is not trivial to do that. So that's why I'm only mentioning it, but we're not going to to focus a great deal on it. All right, we've done enough talking, I think. Let's move on to some practice. We will start with the Instagram.plist. So here I have input a little script, an excerpt from a script that we're going to start with, and let's just see what the script does. As you remember, property lists are a collection of key value pairs, right? So if we want to know what kind of data a property list holds, we will be interested in the keys in that list. So in here I am importing the Python library that we need for this for the processing. Then I am reading the plist from file. So this is the same file. This is just the hash straight out of the backup. To be honest, I always, when I identify a file, I copy it over to desktop or some temporary directory in which I'm working. I'm changing the name of it because otherwise, if you just use the file ID that's given by the backup, you're just going to get lost really, really fast. So I would suggest to rename it, but this is the name that it has in the backup, so I just left it for this example. So here I'm going to iterate over all the keys and print all the keys that are present in this property list. Let's see what happens when we run this script. Alright, so here you can see that in the wild I actually changed the name to the actual name of the file. So I'm reading from that file, and let me run the script and let's see the output. Alright, so we got a long list of keys. This is good because it means that we have a lot of potential. Like the more we get, the more we can choose from. So I'm just going through it and trying to identify interesting keys like last device lock time, for example. It might be a little bit confusing, a little bit difficult because some of them are not really human friendly to read or understand quickly. But I found pre-fill email, for example, so that's some kind of email address associated with the Instagram account. So basically I'm slowly scrolling through the whole list of keys to find something interesting. And there's a full name key as well, so that can be interesting. So how can I use it in the script? Let me create a list of the keys that I'm interested in. So I'm going to input here. I forgot to actually make the list. I'm going to input the keys that I'm interested in just as strings in the list, and then I'm going to edit the loop underneath so that it here I'm just putting 2, but obviously you can put as many as you want from that list. And I'm going to change this loop so that it iterates over that list instead and fetches the value for the given key for me. Alright, so what do I have here? I can see that the first thing, which is the full name, is Alice Bobson, which is my user's name indeed. And the second thing is a property list. So it would require some more processing to be able to parse, but this is just scripting, and we're doing this so that we get specific data that we want. So you can just observe that even in that poorly parsed property list, you can still observe an email address, which I highlighted here. So we still get it even though it's maybe not in a beautiful format. Alright, so the previous example gave us all the keys just as we wanted, but it was a bit of an arduous process. There was a lot of manual going through a long list of keys. So let's see how we can use some command line tools to make that a bit easier for us. So in this demonstration, you can see that I'm back to the first iteration of the script. So I am just printing the keys just as before. And now I'm going to just run it again so we can see again how uncomfortably long the list of keys is. So now we're going to try and use a tool called grep. So this is a tool which will help filter the output. So here, for example, I'm grepping for name. So I'm looking for the string name in the output of Python, of the script, Python script. And I can also do it for, I'm not sure if you can see, but I'm using a pipe symbol just at the end of the line there. It's an unfortunate cropping. So I'm piping the output of the script py to grep. So in the second example, I am looking for the string payment in case there's any payment information that obviously I would be very interested in. So here I identified a couple of keys that I'm interested in, and again, just like before, I am adding them to a list and running the script again. I'm also trying to get some email strings out of there as well. Here I'm also going to print the key as well as the value, just so that we can remember what we got. Great, so we can see the full name, we can see that there's no payment settings, we can see the Facebook email as well as the email that we found last time, so just it looks like the prefill FB email is in a better, simpler format than the prefill email, and that's us. Just one more thing about this topic. I just want to give you a hint. If you look at the screenshot on the slide right now, I have highlighted some interesting things that might or might not be useful for your homework. So especially if you look at the last logged in account, you can find some pretty interesting things over there. So that's just a hint. And yeah, let's move on now. All right, let's move on to the next file, which is time in app. So this is a database. So I open it in the DB browser for SQLite, the same software as we've been using before. And let's just have a quick look at what it looks like inside. So you can see we have the intervals, metadata, and SQLite sequence tables. And we will just go through each of them to see what kind of data we can find inside just now. So I click on browse data, and in intervals you can see that I have a start and end time. So as you can infer from the name, it's time in app. It's going to tell us when the user was using the application. In metadata, we have the last eviction timestamp and last logging timestamp, so that might be interesting as well. And the SQLite sequence just tells us the length of the intervals table. We're going to execute some SQL, but first let's go and look at the the start and end times. We can see that they are again not in a human friendly format. So let's try and change them to Apple and state format. But we can see that this doesn't really work here because the date is in the future, so obviously it can't be correct. So let's try another option from the display format list. So we choose the Unix epoch time, and we can see that that works and gives us the correct date. So let's just remember to do that, because any SQL we will execute, we will need to make that change to the date, otherwise it just will be numbers. So I do the same to the session end date and click OK. Alright, now let's put our SQL knowledge to use and query the database. So we changed the database date format in the last, table date format in the last demonstration. So now I copy that expression so that I can use it in my SQL query, and I go to the SQL execute SQL tab. So I'm going to select the start time and select the end time. I'm just changing the name of the column here from the table intervals. Great. So I now have all the corresponding start and end times, from which I can infer how long the user has used the application for on all of these different dates. So now going back to browse data, if you look at the metadata, we have a last eviction timestamp and last logging timestamp. This is quite a small database, and there isn't many tables. So what if we wanted to print it all together, output it all together? Well, here we are going to use union select. So union select basically puts outputs of two select statements in one. It's not a join, it's just putting two things together. So I am now trying to do union select to get the value from that metadata table. And I'm going to try and run that. Oh, but there is an error. What does the error say? So the error is you cannot union two selects which have two different numbers of columns, and I only tried to get value out of this table. So here I just need to change it so that I also get the key, and this way it will be possible to output the data that I want. You can see that at the end the two last eviction timestamp and last logging timestamp were appended. And at the end, just for the sake of clarity, I probably want to add some aliases for the columns so that the column names are not so crazy. Yeah, that's us. We got our data and it's all clear and readable. Alright, just for the end, let's have a look at the ID database that I mentioned at the beginning. When you open the database, you can see a number of tables. You can see experiment state, some inbox metadata, messages, quick reply, threads, a number of different tables. And please do go through them and make sure that you just see what's inside there. You can see there's some app version you could get out of it. If you click in messages, you can see that there's a number of columns, and there's a column called archive where for each row there's a property list. So please feel free to go and have a look at that. You will find some artifacts, you will find some messages, but it's all very scattered, and it's very hard to attribute it to any particular user. So if you are up for the challenge, please go and try process this these property lists, as well as in threads. You can see there's a visual message info and a thread message range as well, and you can export this file export these files from the DB viewer using one of these icons here. And please feel free to try and use Python scripting to get as much out as you can. But it's just very difficult to attribute the stuff found to any particular users or on conversation. So if you manage to do that, please let us know on the forum. But for now, this is it for this database. Alright, let's summarize. So today we learned about Instagram. It's a very popular application, and it's worth spending time on because it's really prevalent, especially among younger people, teenagers, and also it provides a variety of services. So you can call, you can text or DM in Instagram, speak, you post pictures and like pictures and share pictures. So there's a lot of functionality, which obviously draws people to use the application more. And the key files we went through were the time in app database and the bourbon Instagram property list plist. I hope you will enjoy the homework associated with this module, and if you have any questions, please do ask. Thank you.